The archaeological site on Kepler 442b hummed with activity, but Willow stood apart from the chaos, her gloved fingers tracing the smooth surface of the obsidian shard. It was impossibly black, darker than the void between stars, and it thrummed with a frequency that made her teeth ache. "You shouldn't be touching that without proper containment protocols," David called out, his boots crunching against the crimson sand as he approached. His environmental suit was dusty from 3 weeks of excavation, but his eyes were sharp behind the visor. "It's not dangerous," Willow murmured, though she couldn't explain how she knew. "It's waiting." David reached her side and peered at the artifact. The shard was roughly the size of a human forearm, with edges that seemed to cut through light itself. The dig team had found it at the center of the ruins, a city that predated human spaceflight by at least 50,000 years. The civilization that built it had vanished without explanation, leaving only this crumbling metropolis and a mystery that had consumed Willow's entire career. "Waiting for what?" David asked. Before Willow could answer, the shard pulsed. A single word appeared in the air above it, written in light that shifted through colors the human eye wasn't designed to perceive. The translation matrix in their suits struggled to interpret it, cycling through dozens of alien languages before settling on something comprehensible. "Await the Maker." The words hung there, shimmering, impossible. Around them, the other researchers began shouting, pointing, running for their equipment. But Willow couldn't move. The message resonated through her bones, through the very atoms of her being. It felt ancient and desperate, like a prayer carved into stone by dying hands. "Maker?" David breathed. "They were looking for their creator?" "No," Willow said, her voice distant. She placed both hands on the shard now, and information flooded her mind. Not words or images, but pure understanding. "They were leaving a message for our Maker, for the species that would come after them." The shard grew warm beneath her palms. More text appeared, spiraling outward in concentric rings that told a story of cosmic horror and impossible hope. The civilization that built this city, the Vryn as they called themselves, had been explorers, philosophers, artists. They had mapped 100,000 star systems and cataloged 1,000,000 forms of life. And in all their searching, they had found a pattern. Every sentient species they encountered had been seeded, guided, shaped by invisible hands across billions of years. The Vryn had traced these manipulations back through geological epochs, through the fossil record of 1,000 worlds, and they had discovered the truth. Somewhere in the universe, something was creating consciousness itself, planting it like seeds in fertile soil and watching to see what would grow. The Vryn had spent 10,000 years searching for this Maker, this gardener of minds. They had failed. Their sun was dying, their species facing extinction, and in their final days they had built this monument, not to themselves, but to whoever came next. They left instructions. Willow whispered. The knowledge burned in her mind like stars being born. They mapped the pattern. They found the source. David's hand closed on her shoulder. "Willow, your nose is bleeding." She ignored him. The shard was showing her now, projecting coordinates directly into her consciousness, a place beyond the galactic rim, where space folded in on itself and reality grew thin. The Vryn had believed the Maker dwelt there in a pocket of existence older than the Big Bang itself. "We have to go," Willow said. She turned to David and he flinched at whatever he saw in her eyes. "Don't you understand? This is why we're here. This is why humans exist. Every war we've fought, every poem we've written, every child we've raised, it's all been leading to this moment." "That's insane," David said, but his voice lacked conviction. The shard was pulsing faster now, its light painting shadows across the ruins. Other researchers were backing away, but David held his ground. "Even if this Maker exists, even if the Vryn were right, what makes you think it wants to be found?" "Because it's been waiting too," Willow said. The certainty in her voice surprised even her. The Vryn were brilliant, but they were old. Ancient. They'd spent millennia in contemplation and philosophy. They approached the problem with reverence and caution. She smiled, and it was fierce. "But humans, we're still young, still stupid enough to be brave. We don't wait for permission. We take what we want and ask forgiveness later." The shard cracked, not breaking but opening, like a flower responding to sunlight. At its core was a seed of light so bright it should have burned their eyes, but instead it felt warm, welcoming. The message changed. no longer written in alien script but in pure mathematics, in the universal language of physics and chemistry. It was a call, an invitation, a test that a dozen species had failed over the eons, too afraid or too cautious to answer. Willow reached for the light, and David grabbed her wrist. "If you're going," he said, "you're not going alone. That's what humans do, right? We face the impossible together." She nodded, and together they touched the core of the shard. The universe inverted. They stood in a place that wasn't a place, before something that wasn't quite a being. It was vast beyond comprehension, yet intimate as a heartbeat. The Maker looked at them with eyes that had watched galaxies form and die. And for a moment, Willow felt the weight of every civilization that had come before, all the failed attempts to bridge this gap. Then the Maker smiled, and it was terribly, wonderfully human. "I'm here," Willow said, speaking for her entire species, for every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. "We heard your message. We came." And in that moment, across the gulf of space and time, the last command of the Vryn was finally fulfilled. The Maker had been waiting not for perfection or enlightenment, but for a species brave enough and foolish enough to answer. For humans, who carried the audacity to meet their gods as equals.